Gang, are you looking for better sleep and relaxation or relief from pain or anxiety without feeling totally drugged? Well, let me tell you about True Hemp Science full spectrum CBD products. True Hemp Science promises premium quality, pure ingredients, and true value. They source the highest grade organic hemp from around the world to handcraft the finest full spectrum CBD products in the Austin area and beyond. They offer a complete line of full spectrum CBD products including oils, tinctures, skincare lotions, sports rubs, gummies, and chocolates. Gang, I have been using their products for the last few months and they've lowered my anxiety and they've given me incredibly restful sleep. The kind of sleep that when you wake up, you feel rested and ready to take on the day as opposed to waking up feeling anxious or waking up feeling groggy. Well, gang, I have good news, too. How Did I Get Here has teamed up with True Hemp Science to bring you a special offer that benefits all of us. Spend $65 or more at TrueHempScience.com and receive 296 milligrams of their number 81 distillate, which is great for sleep or relaxation, for free. That's right, gang, for free. Just go to TrueHempScience.com/HDIGH. That's TrueHempScience.com/HDIGH. Balance your body and mind with True Hemp Science full spectrum CBD products. Let's get down.
And you may ask yourself, well, how did I get here?
It's time for How Did I Get Here? And now here are your hosts,
All right, hello, I'm Johnny, I'm your host. Welcome to the show. I hope you guys all had a good weekend, whatever it is you did this weekend. I had a really good weekend. I played on Saturday with Skyrocket out at that place, Hotspot. That's the second time we played there under this new ownership. We played there back in November. It is a fucking great venue. Now, we played there a few years ago before the light stream took over it a couple of years ago. And it was not happening, but now it is such a great place. I think it's a great place to see a show. It sounds great. It looks great. It feels great being outside there, as an artist playing there. They treat you great. Everyone's really nice. It's old friends, people you really like. Ran into a bunch of people I've known forever out there. And, the show was sponsored by KLBJ. It was packed. It was great. The audience was really geared up to play. And I talked about it on Friday's show about Darren being back in the band after being gone for like 6 weeks. And boy, it was great having him back, man. What a great show. Great show all around. Hey, gang, I want to talk to you about something very serious. My friend, Lauren Brown, who used to be a bartender at 1-to-1 Bar, you might know her there. That's how I became friends with her. I usually went there by myself when I went there to hang out, and I would just hang out with Lauren at the bar, pull up a stool, sit there, shoot the shit with Lauren, watch the bands, have some cocktails, and have a great time with her. She's a really, really wonderful person. Unfortunately, a couple weeks ago, she was in a terrible car accident and is still currently in the hospital and will be unable to work for the foreseeable future. And she's doing okay, but she has several broken bones, including her leg, ribs, heel, and other injuries. And my friend, Destiny Ware, who was one of the owners of 1-to-1 Bar, started this GoFundMe page for Lauren. And I'll put a link to it in the text of this podcast. She's got a lot of bills to pay. We all know it's difficult now with healthcare and everything, and especially being like, a gig worker, someone that works at a bar and stuff like that. The insurance isn't amazing. But Lauren's a wonderful person, and if there's anything you can do, if there's anything you can toss out, throw in her direction, help her out, help her through this tough time, it'd be greatly appreciated. Much love to Lauren, and thank you to Destiny for starting that GoFundMe page. Gang, I have a great show for you today. 3-piece post-punk band from Austin, Texas, Urban Heat, are my guests on the show. They have a brand new EP dropping on July 26th on Spaceflight Records. This is a great fucking EP. It's called Wellness. The theme of it is mental health. Jonathan Horstmann, the frontman of the band, has been a friend of mine for a while. He used to be in a band called Blaxploitation, but that band split up, and Jonathan went out on his own. He started a video company, and he and I had a very intense conversation in the summer of 2020 in the wake of the George Floyd murder about race, about all this kind of stuff. But that was at that time that we were talking a little bit about what he was up to musically, and he was telling me about Urban Heat, and then they started dropping singles, and they're incredible. Like, they have this vibe that like reminds you of like a cross between Joy Division, Sisters of Mercy, Sisters of Mercy, Peter Murphy, and a slightly industrial sound like My Life with the Thrill Kill Cult also thrown in there. He's joined by his bandmates on the podcast today, Kevin Naquin and Pax Foley. We have a great conversation about how they came to be a band and all of their influence and how they mesh together and the message that they're trying to get across about mental health on this wellness EP, and just kind of like how this music invaded them at this time in history. Because in a way, it is a retro sound, but it is unto itself very unique. Urban Heat is KUTX July Artist of the Month. They're playing their tunes right now on the KUTX here in Austin. They're going to be playing Austin City Limits Music Fest this year. They played South by Southwest. They're a band that is on the go. As I said, their EP Wellness drops on July 26th on Spaceflight Records, and they're going to be celebrating with a record release show, an EP release show, if you will, on Saturday, July 30th at Hotel Vegas here in Austin. Go to urbanheatband.com for all of your urban heat needs. Okay? Please enjoy my conversation with Jonathan, Kevin, and Pax. This is a fantastic conversation. This is an amazing band. And here it is, me chatting it up with Urban Heat. Let's get down.
Have you ever thought you found your place till you miss a moment and you've been replaced? Or have you ever found some peace of mind just to have it taken for another time? I said, I've had enough to turn it around again. I've had enough to take it all back.
So I was thinking about the last time that we talked was in the summer of 2020, in like the heat of everything.
Oh, right. Yeah, we did a virtual thing.
Yeah. It was really heavy. And at first, the other day, I was like, oh, it's going to be great. You know, we're going to be able to talk. But I'm drawing a blank on the guy that got shot like 60 times the other day.
Just
the other day. It's like, this shit doesn't stop.
No.
It doesn't. And it just keeps on going. And I know that when I was listening to your record, especially the song Trust, which is the video drops
on the 26th.
26th, yeah. It's a great song. But when I was listening to it, there's a line, and I actually wrote it down. There's just no future left for us. Is the us like you and a person, or is the us like us? Like, what the fuck is going on?
Yeah, the us is everyone.
Yeah. There's a lot of that in the record, right? Like, there's a lot of like people trying to get through shit.
Absolutely. Yeah, I don't know if that was like intentional. I think we just sort of like, the way we write is, you know, there comes like an instrumental and then you're kind of like making vowel sounds and stuff and figuring out melodies.
Yeah.
And then I actually, for this record, I intentionally sort of like read a couple of things on like different like schools of thought on songwriting and different techniques for songwriting, instead of just kind of like, you know, throwing shit at the wall and seeing what sticks. Yeah. And so this was the first time like trying to actually like let my art, I guess, show through poetry. You know what I mean? Like do something intentional.
Yes. And I wrote this down. Shit. There's a song on there. And it has like maybe it's not on the record. Maybe it's another one that almost has like a Talking Heads kind of verses.
Oh, yeah.
But that one to me, I was going to ask you. Yeah, Simple Love Song.
Yeah.
That's not on the record. That came out before.
Yeah.
Was that a poem first? Because that's what it sounds like to me.
That, so the chorus actually was the first thing that came out. Was just like a conversation with my wife, just thinking how like I wish I could write simple love songs, but the world keeps falling apart. It just kind of came out, and then we had this chorus that felt really good, and I had no idea how to turn it into a song, what I was going to do. And so what I'll do is I had like the bass line and the drums, and I would just like put it on a loop in the car and just try different things, just drive around and try different vocal lines over it. And the only thing that worked was sort of like this singing sort of thing. But the lines were never, I don't know if I ever like wrote them down. It was just sort of like, oh snap, I got to record this real quick. I just kind of like ad-libbed and then ended up using that. I think I used like the second take that I ever did, like, because we used the audio from the demo so I was like demoing the vocals, and I think like the second take that I did, just making up words, that's what ended up getting put out.
The actual take of the song?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
At least of the vocal line of the verses.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So have you been working with Jonas this whole time since you've started doing this? Did you guys all work with Jonas?
I think he was, I think we had some songs, and I think he was like the first choice to sort of like bring them into the world. And so, this entire time we've pretty much, I think the first kind of batch of songs we tracked everything at Mr. Pink. And then what we started doing was I would start tracking at my house, basically because of the pandemic. I started tracking things at the house and demoing things, but a lot of like the synths and drum machines and things like that would actually be tracked at my house. And then we just go over to the studio just to do like guitar, bass, vocals.
Right. He's so fun. I've known Jonas forever. Like Jonas became the guitar player in my band when he was like 19.
Oh, wow.
Mm-hmm.
Like 21 years ago, something, a long time ago. But he really, like, do you guys do this analog?
We'll use analog synths, but then I'm also like using like a lot of sample-based production too. Okay. Just because I feel like in 2020 we have access to so many sounds that have already been made.
Yeah.
And we can kind of mangle them and glitch them out and do different things. So we haven't like put that to tape. We'll use analog effects for the most part. But we're not doing things on tape, or we're taking advantage of all of the digital tools at our disposal.
Well, there was some analog stuff written in like the bio stuff, so I didn't know exactly, because I know Jonas and me did a record like 10 or 11 years ago that we used we did a lot of stuff recording to Pro Tools, but ran it through the tape heads and stuff like that. So.
We'll do stuff like that for like vocal effects.
Cool.
The analog in the bio is mostly about the actual sound design. So like all the synth sounds, it's mostly like Moogs and like a Prophet Rev 2.
Wow.
I think in the first batch of songs we used an ARP Odyssey on a lot of stuff. A lot of bass lines were ARP. We need to get another one. Yeah. That thing was sick. Yeah, we were renting it. Yeah. Or I think I bought it and then just like sold it and then bought something else.
During the time of recycling over and over.
Hey Kevin, don't forget to lean up on your mic. No, it's okay. So talk to me a little bit. Like, what's your story?
My story.
Yeah. Who are you? How'd you meet Jonathan?
I met Jonathan.
What are you doing in my apartment, man?
Yeah, right. I met Jonathan, I guess, in 2011 or so. I was in another group called Sorn, and he had this thing called Food for Free. Right?
Food is free. Yeah.
Food is free. Mm. And I remember y'all asked us to play like a South by party, and it was like middle of the day, hot as hell on a like blacktop parking lot or something. And I think that was my introduction to you. And then later, you came out to shoot a video with us out. What's that park out?
At the big rock.
Yeah,
Enchanted Rock.
Enchanted Rock. That's it. And so he came out and he was a dancer in our video. And then I went away for a little while on tour and came back, and he had a punk rock band. And I fell in love with that band and was like, I want to do shows
Blaxploitation?
Yeah, Blaxploitation.
Yeah.
And so, that's how we met. And then over the years, just played a lot of shows together, found ourselves on different bills. I had another group later on that was played a lot of shows with him. I got him to feature on one of our songs. And that's kind of when we started talking about maybe working together more. That was around 2018 or so. And he started shooting me some songs and stuff. I was like, man, this stuff's great. Yeah. Way different than I expected something we would do, but it was still right up my alley. I'm an 80s kid, so.
Yeah. Dude, there's so much like, there's a bunch of stuff that I was thinking when I was listening to it. Because like I listened to the style of music that you guys make when it the first time, like the first wave of it. You know what I mean?
Right.
And I was wondering if you ever listen to bands like Sisters of Mercy or Peter Murphy or stuff. Because there's some real
Actually got to play
feeling.
with Peter Murphy before.
You did?
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
Salt Lake City was so weird. It was a weird like billing, but it was so awesome to see him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Legend, man.
Yeah.
Where do you, like, are you Cajun or something?
I sure am.
Yeah.
I'm from New Orleans.
Yeah.
Yeah, don't,
You sure
don't
are.
make me go into that voice. Cause
No, I won't. I won't. You were going into it already, man. You know, I played in Lafayette a few years ago, and I got to the gig like 3 hours early, and I wanted to go get some Cajun food, and I asked the guy that worked there, I'm like, hey, is there a good place for Cajun food? And he's like, oh yeah, there's a place right down the street. And then he goes back behind the thing, and this guy leans over to me. He's like, you know where you want to go? And I was like, yes, you're the guy.
You know what?
Yeah, you're the one. What about you, Pax? What's your story?
I don't really have a story. I'm just here, you know.
That's good.
Yeah, playing music.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you play?
I play bass.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is it weird? Do you play the synth basses on there too?
I would like to.
You would?
Yeah.
It's always weird when you try and do something in a studio. Like a lot of times what I end up doing is recording all this shit by myself, and then you have to find people to kind of fit into what you do, and then that morphs into what those people bring to the table, and then it becomes its own monster. Has Urban Heat kind of become that? Have you noticed that, Pax?
It's moving really rapidly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like as far as like the joint creativity goes?
Everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like starting this kind of during the pandemic, like we literally started like in the end of 2019, like
right.
developing everything, and then the pandemic hit, and it just felt a lot easier to let Jonathan kind of do his thing at home, you know, and he would always send us stuff like, y'all like this, y'all like that, and we'd be like, yeah, we love that, you know. And so I think coming out of that now, I think as we go forward, we might see a little more of like, you know, us kind of tinkering with the sound, maybe, you know, putting different things in here or there that might not have came out of one person kind of behind,
right.
you know, a lot of the sound. So
and what do you play?
I do a little bit of everything. I play with the group. I play synths and the samples and stuff.
Yeah.
But I'm a producer, you know, for years. So it's kind of, you know.
Yeah, Kevin's got a
everything.
great like production ear.
Yeah.
I think we all kind of come from
Yeah.
a producer background, like, you know, kind of the modern kind of bedroom producer kind of like approach. But, you know, when we come together, each of us going to have to play a role, you know, to kind of fill it out.
Right. Are you from Austin, Pax?
No.
No. Okay.
I'm from Philadelphia.
Oh, nice.
And then moved to San Antonio, and now I'm here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just had a Philadelphia guy. It comes out on Tuesday, but you know G Love.
Mm-hmm.
That guy's cool, man.
Special sauce.
G Love and Special Sauce. Yeah. But I just talked to him. There was no sauce
nice.
going on.
That's cool.
Philadelphia has such a unique vibe to it, like Austin. You know what I mean? And there's a real like the whole thing that happened in the doo-wop stuff in the 60s, leading into the sort of like that really beautiful Philly
soul.
sound. Philly soul sound of the 70s that just killed. Do you get back there much? And are you connected to that music scene?
Not really.
No.
I we were there for a little bit in Brooklyn, so I would go back, you know, just to visit family, but not really.
Yeah.
It changes, just like here, you know. Go back and it's I mean, my neighborhood doesn't really change, but yeah, Philly's a little different, so but I'm anxious to get up there.
Yeah.
For sure.
I was gonna tell you guys congratulations on ACL Fest. That's
Thank
awesome.
you. Thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was a cool freaking day. Cool email to get.
Yeah, I bet, man.
Yeah.
Is there when something like that happens? Do you you just go do your thing because you guys have like an incendiary kind of like live performance thing that you're known for?
Mm-hmm. Oh, we do our thing versus what? What else?
Versus
what else
like
would we
some
do?
people I know that have gotten the gig at ACL. Like my friend Sheila got dancers.
Oh,
She got
yeah,
like that.
yeah.
She's a pop artist.
fill the
She got like a whole bunch of
Yeah,
dancers
yeah.
to go
So,
do the thing.
I think it depends on when the set time is, but the BMI stage for the most part is always daytime sets, right?
Oh, right, yeah.
So and for us, we're kind of a nighttime,
Yeah, definitely.
smoky club
Yeah,
sort of
yeah,
thing,
yeah.
right? So I don't know what visually we can really do outside of just like do our thing.
Yeah.
You know, I might go a little bit elaborate on like my outfit or something like that, you know, because it's like a bigger stage. But I think we're just gonna show up, go to war, do the thing.
feathers and stuff.
Yeah, I'd love some feathers, big feathered collars, sort of
Yeah.
thing.
Well, there's that thing where like we play these places that are, you know, maybe a big 3 times, 4 times bigger than this apartment, like Gutted or something.
Yeah.
But then you realize people are going to be seeing you from like 150 yards away,
You gotta
and
blow
decide
yourself up.
whether or not they're going to walk over. You know what I mean?
Very true. Very true.
Kind of shit's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, your KUTX July Artist of the Month. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah, it's been a cool summer. I feel like honestly the last 6 months, really like since I feel like this thing, we released a song and then pandemic happened, and then I feel like we were just kind of like in a cocoon. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
just kind of like we went into a cave and like we put out some stuff, but it was really just sort of like just kind of like starting to boil. And then when everything opened up, it was just kind of like when you leave, you know, a pot on the stove with like the pasta or whatever, and it just like goes over, and then the smoke alarm goes off, and then like the dog starts barking, and you're
Yeah,
just like,
yeah.
what the hell just happened?
yeah, no, exactly.
So it was like it's been really, really cool. We've just honestly, like, it feels a little bit for myself. It feels like this trying to play catch up to so many like cool things that have been happening, and just trying to make sure that we position ourselves in the right way and react in the right way. Because like so much, you know, success is like luck, but being prepared. You know,
Yeah,
so,
exactly.
Just trying to catch up to what's happened, so that when the next opportunity comes, we're on top of it and we're ready to jump on that, rather than like, you know, still kind of like putting our shoes on.
Right. You guys are playing tonight, aren't you?
Yeah,
the
we're
Parish?
playing at the Parish.
Have you been to that new Parish?
Not since they've no.
I didn't know it moved. I had the weirdest thing. I went to that Moon Tower Comedy Festival, and I was with this friend of mine, and we were like sitting there looking at our phones.
Really?
Like, it says it's here, man. This guy comes walking up, and he's like, I don't know. Are you looking for the Parish? And we're like, no. So it's where the ND was.
Yeah.
It seems like, I mean, I've only seen comedy there, but it's a nice room. It's kind of small though.
I always enjoyed playing there. We played. I played a show with Kevin's last band, the one that they featured us on. That was one of my first times playing ND, and I liked because you know they have the balcony.
Yeah.
Right? So the stage is like 24 feet tall. You know,
Right.
not like where you step on. Right.
Right.
But the backdrop is just so
Right.
high.
Yeah.
And I just love that. I love that the feeling of like almost like a Coliseum sort of thing.
Yeah.
You know, it feels very grand.
Yeah.
At least it felt very grand. I'm gonna have to see what they did with the
Yeah,
space.
from the pictures, it almost seems like they moved the stage to the middle of the
Yep,
room, but I could be
That's
wrong.
right.
Is it true?
They did,
Okay.
yeah. And
Ooh.
then now the stage faces a bar,
Right.
Okay.
but there's still the balcony.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because before the stage was kind of tucked away in that
Yeah,
corner. but
yeah.
Yeah, that could be cool.
Corner
We'll see
stages are a
tonight.
thing. I like non-corner stages though too.
Yeah. You guys so far have released. Rosie's just drinking water. Sounds great in
Hey,
here.
you gotta.
Rosie, that's
stay
great.
Hydrated.
Great water drinking, buddy. You guys were releasing singles before. Now you're releasing like an EP.
Mm-hmm.
Have you? Is there talks like? Because so many people, myself included, like I just release a song at a time now. Like whenever I finish a song, I
Kind
put
of-
it out because it
You
seems
get the
like
most out of it that
Yeah.
way right now.
Exactly.
It's weird that way, but
Are you? I know you're doing video for Trust, and you did a video for Have You Ever, which is
Yeah.
a great video, by the way.
Thank you.
Who did that?
Thank you. My friend Ima Loop.
Okay.
We kind of like co-directed it. I had the concept and she like made it happen.
Well, I know because when I talked to you a couple years ago, you were starting this business that was starting to really go.
Yeah.
Doing
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
Are you still doing a lot of video stuff?
We did the Black Angels levitation thing. I've
Awesome.
done a bunch of stuff for Alex Moss. I take video projects when it's something that I really want to do.
Yeah.
Now it's especially with like how much time the band takes up.
Right.
It's like I don't have time to like just do a homie deal for whatever. It's
Right.
just like if I'm getting behind the camera, it's like because I really want to make this thing happen.
Yeah. That's the thing about those videos. I talked to John Valley, great
Yeah.
video director.
Yeah.
And he had made a movie, and we were talking about the video stuff, and it's just like it totally has to be something you want to do because you're not gonna. It's like backbreaking work.
Yeah, man. Otherwise, I mean, you're losing sleep to edit somebody else's thing for like, and you hook them up for money wise, and you're like, I could be working on my own stuff right now, but I'm doing this thing because I thought maybe it would be worthwhile, or
Yeah.
And it's just like you just have to. I think just as we get older and more seasoned as artists, the things that we should be working on and spending our time with, they just become more obvious.
Yeah, and your time becomes a little more precious, especially you have a family.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We all do now.
you all
We're all family, man.
Yeah, that's so funny. It's not what someone would think if they saw you play. If they saw you guys play. You don't think like dad band by any means. So, did you grow up? I mean, did you guys come up listening to this music? Like, how did you find this sound?
Man, well, I'll let you guys speak for yourselves on your relationship to like synth music and stuff. But
Yeah.
I wasn't allowed to listen to anything but Christian, like not even gospel. Like gospel was too like hymn music, like
Oh, right.
harmony,
Gospel
hymn
was a little too racist.
Yeah. And so I didn't really discover contemporary music until I was like a teenager. And so what has happened with me, it's sort of like, and I was explaining this in the KUTX interview, I know that it sounds 80s to like other people. To me, it just sounds like I'm writing songs and just happen to be using synthesizers and drum machines to accomplish it, right?
Correct.
Which is what people were doing when early synth music was just, it didn't necessarily have like an aesthetic. It was just like, here's a synthesizer, here's some songs, let's put them together. So like if your songs were quirky and you added a synth, they sounded like quirky synth songs. If your songs were like punk and you added a synth, then it was like synth punk sort of, right?
Right.
Or then it's the same for like anything else. So I kind of write, kind of poppy. The guys kind of, Kevin and Pax kind of like filter, like I'm just like kind of like creative. I would do anything creatively, like as stylistically, right? And so like I have to like I push something out and then it goes through the filter of like basically Kevin and Pax like make it cool, make it like give it like an aesthetic and a vibe. Whereas if I was doing this on my own, there would be some really kooky stuff coming out, because I don't have that musical, I don't really have a grounding in the existing genres that were there.
Okay.
You know what I mean? So like I'm
get
kind of all over the place, and then these guys help be like, nah, dude, that's whack. And, and I have to and Pax kind of like always wants to make it like darker. Kevin has like a really good mind about like the even if it is pop, then like how do we make it pop without being cheesy, because like we want to write music that people enjoy and that people dance to. We don't want it to be inaccessible. So
it's essentially like a band like Sisters of Mercy is doing the same thing as Erasure. But one of them is like a guy in a tutu singing, and the other one's like guys with leather jackets and shit. Yeah. Mm-hmm. There's something about that. There's something about like the ethos of punk when an artist moves into their next. It works really well with folk music. Like when punk guys become folk guys, it makes a lot of sense. Still has the same ethos and everything. And I get the ethos of punk rock in your. In this music, even though it's a little more dressed up, it's a little more upscale. So what's your relationship to the music, Kevin? To this style of music?
It's not nearly as interesting as his, because I feel like that lends itself to the writing and not necessarily having all the reference points. For me, I have too many reference points sometimes, and it's just like, all this stuff. Or like afraid that, it's too much like this, too much like that. Right. I was born to teenagers, so MTV was on all the time, as a kid. Grew up with all the new wave music, got introduced to like skate punk and hip hop real early, and that kind of formed my teen years, but I always went back to a lot of the late 70s, early 80s punk, post-punk, new wave and stuff. I mean,
Blondie or like
yeah, I would say more like, I don't know, any of the CBGB bands. I mean,
okay,
including like the bands that would come from like DC and stuff, like Bad Brains and Minor Threat.
Oh, okay.
But also, you know, love The Cure, love New Order, Joy Division. You know,
right. Well, those are the original. All those bands are the original, like post-punk new wave bands.
OMD, you know, I was telling him about them recently, like just how they kind of, you know, really, really honed the synth pop sound with like Enola Gay and stuff.
Sure.
You know, and
they were just here.
Yeah, so
OMD. A couple guys in my band went to go see them.
Wow.
And were like they were like, it was unbelievable.
Yeah, I could imagine.
Yeah.
I think they played ACL live too, right?
Yeah,
yeah. That would have been great to see.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's kind of, you know, my thing is that all over the place. I mean, I've seen so many bands live. I was telling them about when I saw Jesus and Mary Chain, like in the early 90s, you know, and they were like automatic for the people, you know.
You look really young to be a guy that saw Jesus and Mary Chain in the early 90s.
I'm not going to reveal my age on
That's
this.
all right, you don't have to.
Yeah. And then and then graduating into heavier stuff like Ministry and, of course, Nine Inch Nails, you know. But I saw Ministry back in the day, and it was incredible, you know.
Yeah.
Like one of my favorite shows ever. And, you know, I also produce hip-hop music, so it's like, you wouldn't think that, like, I saw Al Jurgensen, like, you know, up close, you know, telling us all to cause anarchy in this theater 30 years ago, you know, but, yeah, man.
Do you know this guy, Curse Mackey, that lives here?
Of course,
yeah. He's huge in that. Was it like singing with My Life with the Thrill Kill Cult now?
Yep. We were just talking to Curse. We were trying to get him on, actually, our EP show, but kind of conflict with dates and stuff, but we're gonna do some stuff with him for sure.
Yeah. He's a great like encyclopedia of industrial dance music, like just totally.
Yeah,
it's fucking awesome.
Yeah, he knows that whole Chicago like scene
totally.
Wax tracks.
Yeah. What about you, Pax? What's your relationship to synth music?
So I'm the same as Kevin. It's just everywhere. But
we're actually the same age as well. So.
Right. So when I first
question mark
reveal it.
When I first heard it, I never revealed my age. Not even anybody. I don't reveal.
I know how old Kevin is, but I have no idea how old Pax is. I know they're the same age, but I don't know.
He's 3 months.
Because I just
sorry.
I used to, I listened to obviously, funk, soul, rap, growing up, but I was introduced to it mainly because of the girls that were around me, and I remember hearing like Depeche Mode and stuff like that, and being like, "This shit sucks," and I didn't like none of it at first, and then I remember Metallica on the school bus, and I was like, "Dude, this shit is fucking crazy. I like this shit," and I just remember getting into heavier stuff, and then as time went on, like I started hanging out with different people, because in my neighborhood, if you didn't listen to rap or like Curtis Mayfield or something, you were weird.
Yeah.
And I liked that. So I just started like paying attention more to different, music in different, genres, whether it was punk, whether it was a new wave, metal, hair metal. I really liked hair metal. I still do. Van Halen is the best band ever. But I don't know, and I just like really started paying attention, and then I, like he said, MTV was out, and I just started being like, man, like this stuff is cool, and the more people thought I was weird or different from like people in my family, I thought it was better. It was even better, like
because it was yours.
Right. And then plus like people around me were doing the same thing, and expected you to be the same, and expected you to like be all like them and shiny and stuff. And I was just like, nah, man, like this is what you gotta do. So my, I was in hip hop groups or whatever, and even that was grimy, you know what I'm saying? So my brother, he was probably the first wave of like, this is what we gotta do. Like we need to like pick up these instruments and just like play instruments. He picked up the drums. I remember my friend Abraham, my brother Abraham, his brother taught me how to play bass, even if it was just like, just like couple lines like Bill Withers or something,
Sure.
couple, you know, I don't know. I just was like, you know, I just started, and then I started hanging with this kid named Alan Newton, and we call him Sapo. That dude's music, he's a white dude from Burnet, Texas, but his music like is from like, you know, rap all the way to like just some obscure, you know, noise stuff to like all he does is watch horror movies, and so we started making horror movie soundtrack music with the movies in the background. So so it just, everything just came back full circle for me, and you know, I started being like, you know, like it was more like, for me, it was more like I had to prove myself moving to Austin, because they were like, you'd meet like different bands and they'd be like, oh, let me guess, you rap, and I would be like, yeah, but you know what I mean, I can play this instrument too, or you know, I know these bands, I know Joy Division, I know, you know, all of that stuff, but you know, and then that's probably what made me even like it even more, the fact that people, you know, underestimate you and think that like you're supposed to be in this box.
That's a pretty.
I'm not in that box.
Yeah. I've talked to people that have told me those things about like they show up to a gig. It wasn't you guys, but somebody who like showed up to a gig and they're like, oh, you know, we thought you were a different kind of band. We didn't realize you were a rap band. But you're like, no, fucking.
Yeah, that would
you
happen.
know what I mean?
That would happen to Blaxploitation.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that just happened to people.
Maybe that you guys told me that.
Yeah, just they think you're supposed to be this way, and it's like, nah, we're this way.
That happened at TV on the radio. Remember, they were telling us, we were hanging with them, they were telling us a story that they were doing a photo shoot, and they came with all these like shiny suits, basically like P. Diddy style. And it's like, well, I thought y'all were like R&B rap group, and they're like, no, you got the wrong band.
Yeah, man, what a great band! You guys hung out with them?
Yeah. Well, I was supposed to, but I didn't.
You hung out with them one night?
Yeah,
I actually toured with them.
did.
You did?
And so that was kind of the connection. And when they came back into town, one time you came with me and hung out with them.
Yeah, I did.
And then a few years
But I left
later,
early.
you was with me, you and Dino, I think. Was that Stubbs?
Yeah.
And that's when they told us that story, actually.
Yeah.
Because you and
Can we
Jaleel
go to
were
13th
swapping,
floor afterwards?
yeah.
Yeah.
You and Jaleel were swapping model stories because y'all both models.
Oh, okay, right. Yep.
You know, when I first
Thanks for
heard,
dropping that.
Right? I had to drop that jewel.
when I first heard "Staring at the Sun," I thought it was like a 70s Peter Gabriel song that I'd never heard.
Oh, God.
Because that guy sounds so
That's
much
so
like
good.
him when he's singing.
Yeah.
I remember hearing
And
that song
Peter,
for the first
Peter
time.
Gabriel's just, that's one of those artists that always gets overlooked, it seems, when we talk about this kind of music. Because I feel like like he was doing it, It's funny, I actually, one of the songs we picked for the KUTX My DJ thing that we just did a few days ago was Staring at the Sun.
Oh, it was it?
Yeah.
I mean, Peter Gabriel, you can't like have like an 80s song without like a heavily gated snare, you know, and like that and those toms. That's Peter Gabriel.
Yeah. And Phil, because Phil was playing drums
I agree.
on that
It's
song.
always, you're always going to have, you know.
Yeah, and then he was the
that
guy that
argument,
took
but
it and made that really
he made
popular.
It really
Yeah. Him
really
and what was
popular.
the producer guy's name?
That's really who gets the credit.
Yeah,
right?
it was
the name that we forget.
What's his name? He's really famous. Oh well, I'll remember.
He produced the Phil Collins stuff, like in there tonight.
He did
era?
because after
I didn't know that was someone
Peter
else.
left Genesis, Phil kept playing drums on his records,
Right.
and then the producer, whose name is almost there, he produced the Gabriel record where they used the gated drums. Then right afterwards did the solo Phil Collins record,
wow.
the first one, In the Air Tonight, man.
Yeah.
Boy, that sound really turned into a huge piece of shit a few years later, though. The gated drum sound was just fucking awful. Did you? Do you remember, Jonathan, the first? Do you remember when you connected with music to the point where you said, "I want to do this"? Well, do you remember that moment and what it was that inspired you to be like?
That's such a good question. I think we kind of like take that for granted, that like it just feels like I've always wanted to do that, right?
Yeah.
I'm kind of like multidisciplinary, right? So like I think at one point, I think for a while, I thought art was kind of like the way that I was going to go. It was more visual arts. And I think I was always kind of encouraged to work on my art and to work on my music, but not necessarily to see that as a career path. Right. Like the career path always needed to be something more grounded.
Right.
I don't know when I decided that I wanted to be a musician, but I do remember when I found that music was kind of like the most powerful force on earth to me.
Yeah.
And that was, I think I was a senior in high school, and I was still just discovering songs and stuff. And a friend in journalism class was like, she had some headphones on. I was like, what are you listening to? She was like, Deftones. You ever heard Deftones? And I was like, no. And so she put her headphones on me, and she started My Own Summer, Shove It. And the like that just came in, and like every millisecond that song kept playing, my whole world sonically and just emotionally.
That's what happened with me with Metallica.
Just expanded. It just
thing.
expanded. I was just like, I was just a different person after I took those headphones off, you know? And so I think whether or not I made the decision then, I think some switch had been flipped in me at that point where it was like I was never going back.
Yeah. And yours was Metallica?
Yeah, definitely. I remember because I think I was listening to like Run DMC or something, and somebody was like, yo, check this out. And I was like... Yeah, it was crazy, yeah. And that's when I just started paying attention more to like other things other than like what was right in front of me.
It's funny that was it pre-Black Album Metallica?
Oh yeah.
It was like where you couldn't hear the bass, but you ended up being a bass player.
Lightning, I think.
Yeah. But it's like one of those records where
CD player right now,
where you can't hear the bass, but you ended up being a bass player after it.
Yeah, I wasn't even thinking about musicianship like that then.
Right.
I was just like listening, and I remember also same kid had his sister was like a Kelly Bundy type girl, where she just had like all the rock, on her wall, and she just like had the short, the short skirt, all of that.
Yeah.
And I was just like, man, like where am I right now? And so I don't know, but all the girls that I liked, they all listened to, the new wave, like the Cure or something.
Yeah.
Which I thought was horrible at first.
Right.
I had to like listen to it over and over again to be like.
Now he wears Depeche Mode shirts and stuff.
Where it just comes on and you're just like, oh, I know that song, and you like it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and that's, I just figured it out. Like, man, this, like listening to the lyrics too, like about, living life a little more, and then listen to what they're going through in their lyrics.
Right.
Also, it's a little different from like rap where it's like, I'm the best.
Right. Exactly.
So I have that too.
Yeah.
I'm the best, but I'm also like, man, but also I'm not the best all the time. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like sometimes I don't feel like I'm the best.
Yeah.
But
it is funny like that. Like in rock, there's the why is this happening to me? I love you. Why don't you love me back?
Yeah.
Why
Rock
did you
can be
leave me?
So whiny.
Yeah, totally. And hip hop is like, fuck you.
Yeah, I don't care if you love me.
Yeah.
Cause she's gonna love me. You know
Exactly.
what I mean? Or like whatever, so I have like, both.
There's a lot of deep. There's a deeper thing to all that too, though. It has a lot to do with like pride and just being, beaten down and
Right.
You could argue
Exactly.
that there's like a level
Sure,
of privilege
absolutely.
to be able
Exactly.
to be able to just focus on like your emotional
right.
well-being
That's right.
That is
versus just like survival.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's funny because musically you can see that, and I see it a lot, not as much in American music as I do like in British music. You can see like these rich kids that got a chance, like the guys in Genesis, the guys in like
art school kids.
art school kids, like the guys in Radiohead. They're not poor kids, and they can do whatever the fuck they want. Like other guys trying to write like pop hits so that they can make a living for their mom. You know what I mean? It's interesting like that. So what was your gateway music that made you?
It's really hard to. I don't know. I always go back to like Raising Hell, like that album and License to Ill. They both came out like within a year themselves, and I was just like, "What the hell is this?" You know what I mean? Because you had seen a little bit of hip hop, a little rap, but when Run DMC did it and MTV got on it, and then the Beastie Boys followed it,
that's true.
It was kind of like,
I think we all went through that.
but like Suicidal Tendency, like in it, I was kind of running around skate kids, you know what I mean, and like just that whole. I would get introduced to music in that way. You know what I mean? Like, you got like this. Like, I was talking about the Ministry show. Well, who opened for them? Social Distortion.
Oh, yeah.
Another band that's like, that kind of band you was talking about can like go through these different, like, play with different genres and
Yeah.
stuff that
Folk or
always
something.
come out. Yeah,
Yeah,
the same
Social
thing.
Distortion's always on a bill with someone you wouldn't expect them to
Right.
be on a bill with. Yeah, that's true. That's interesting.
Such an
That's
incredible
another
band,
thing
yeah.
too with Austin with me is that when I was in the hip hop band, we would play with bands that were like do straight out the 70s, like Scorpion Child or like
Right.
Eagle Claw, metal band. Like we would all be on the
Yeah.
same bill, and then they all respected and they all knew. People in Austin just know music, and I was like, whoa, what is this? Because in San Antonio, if you didn't listen to
You kinda-
San
yeah, you
Antonio's like Philly, it's
territorial.
like you're like
Yeah.
you got to listen
Same
to
thing in
this.
New Orleans is like
Yeah.
you go to this club to hear this music,
Right.
you go to this club to hear this
Right.
music, and you will not have any crossover at all.
Yeah.
you
Right.
know?
What was the hip hop band you were in?
It was called. I was in a couple, but this one was called Beta Player. When we my first band ever, and it was all my friends. So of course it didn't work out. But
You were in Beta Player when I met you, right?
yeah,
Is that how I met you?
I don't know. I thought we met riding bikes or something. And
Yeah.
then but I was in Beta
Yeah,
Player.
yeah. Probably
yeah,
not riding bikes with you. Yeah.
But yeah, it's just like. But when I moved to San Antonio though, or was living in San Antonio, that '90s rock, like Soundgarden or like all that shit was big, and I listened to all that shit too. So that's
Yeah.
what I mean. I listen to everything if it's good. If
Yeah.
it's too
Right.
shiny and
If
polished,
it's
I
got
can't
quality,
do it.
yeah.
Yeah, but yeah. So I don't know. It was just always like just well rounded, I guess. You listen to like Jimi Hendrix, when you start seeing guys like that and you start looking at yourself like, man, like that dude looks like me. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
So then it's like, that's another thing that kind of opened too, is that I knew especially in Philly, black people can play instruments, you know what I mean? But everybody kind of moved towards, beats and synthesizers or whatever, like
Right.
beat machines. But then you go back and like, oh man, like Black Murda or like Jimi Hendrix or Mandrill. That's like that group right there. I think they're from the 70s. They're like, you listen to their record and it sounds like some 70s rock, but then they have like this like salsa, like I'll just go right into it.
Yeah, yeah.
And then they'll come into some like other, like you're just like, what? Like what's going on here? Like, so like just being able to listen to all of that and then just being able to go through life and what's the word, like just advance through music,
yeah.
like just so we came right back to the 80s new wave type thing, and everybody's loving it,
Yeah.
but we have our spin on it, so it's
Yeah,
still,
it's not like Howard Jones or something. You know what I mean?
Oh,
Like-
I love Howard.
I love Howard Jones too, but it's
But no, it's not
You
that-
guys don't
yeah, it's not
err
that
on
kind
the
of-
side of Howard Jones synth music.
Right.
It's funny because I also it took me a little while to make this connection. And you guys, do you know the artist Primo the Alien? Mm-hmm. Okay, so it's like with her, she plays a specific style of music from an era like 1987.
Right.
Very much so.
Yeah.
And the thing is I didn't connect with that music when it was happening. I was a little like, man, come on. So when she started doing her thing, I was like, why is someone doing that? And it took me a long ass time to realize I do the same fucking thing, but my shit's rooted in like 1972 to 1977, and that's where I live
I
musically.
like to think ours is like
Yeah.
78 to 83.
Yeah,
in a way,
oh, definitely.
In a sense,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Am
yeah.
I
Totally,
kinda on?
totally, yeah, totally, yeah.
Man, I have absolutely
Yeah.
0 point of reference.
But that's
Yeah.
kind of where it's at, and
I'm
that's
like,
what
all
that's
right.
what's so unique is that this guy is
exactly.
is channeling
I
that,
think it's kinda
but he
cool,
doesn't
too.
even know.
I think it's kind of
really
cool
dope.
that he doesn't really listen to it like that, but then can make it,
Right.
I don't know.
Well, it's interesting because when we came up, and I'm assuming you might be a little bit younger than us, is that when we came up, there were walls up. Like you couldn't be into Suicidal Tendencies and Hall & Oates at the same time.
Nope.
Nope.
Like
But I
people
was,
would beat
though.
you up.
But we were,
But we were secretly.
Yeah, exactly.
Secretly.
Exactly.
But
That's the
now
truth.
people hear music. Like, doesn't it kind of like shock you guys sometimes
I
when
say it all the time.
it's
Yeah.
not even like someone's parents' music. It's just
Right.
music.
It's just
Yeah.
music. Yeah.
They-
Like,
they
oh,
just-
I like this song.
I guess
They
it
see
depends,
music
though. I
different.
guess it depends on how young you are, though, because some kids are like, that's just too old. Like, I gotta listen to this like this new trap shit.
Yeah.
And they can't even fathom
Right.
like the old stuff.
Right.
Which is
I think
me,
it depends on how much you care. Like
Yeah.
how much you like. If you're really into music, you're going to listen to a lot of different things.
Right.
And I think that's always been the case. But like you said, it was a little bit of stigma. You kind of had to like find your crowd, your lane, you know, and stay in it. I think today, because they have such an advantage, the younger the kids, with the internet and everything, to be able to look back, their record collections or their Spotify playlist is all over the place.
All over the place,
which is great.
There's music as like a force of nature, but there's also music as like a source of identity.
Yeah, exactly.
And so depending on how you're interacting with it, I think that's kind of where, so you can like appreciate music, but if you're kind of still using your genre or whatnot as like a part of your identity, then you're going to miss out on being able to appreciate a lot of other stuff.
Right. That's true.
And once you kind of release that, then you're able to appreciate a lot more.
Yeah.
It's kind of like old movies, some people can't watch an old black and white or watch just anything from the 70s or 80s because it's like looks too old and it's too long, but now it's like
too drawn out.
Too drawn out.
Our attention spans have gotten
right.
I don't know, man. The last like Marvel movie I thought was
Jesus
way too
Christ,
fucking long.
dude.
Oh yeah, I mean they do that.
They're
too.
drawing that out because like everybody's streaming whole like series, so
Yeah.
like they're trying to like pack all of this story into like, and I'm like, I don't need to sit in the theater for 3 hours. I went through 2 years of being able to just like binge from my couch. Like it doesn't matter like what kind of menu there is at this theater. I don't want to be in one place for that
They still
long.
make long movies,
Yeah.
Hopefully that changes.
Do you guys, you have a booking agent?
We
right?
do, man.
You do?
Yeah.
So do you tour?
We have Ian at Atomic Music Group.
Yeah,
So right now we're just,
by the way.
thank you. Right now we're doing stuff regionally.
Yeah.
This summer we'll be in Louisiana and in Georgia.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. And then doing a
Orleans.
lot of Texas stuff. But then we'll do the East Coast in October. And then we're going to come back for Halloween and then do the West Coast.
Wow.
Yeah.
So full on touring.
Yeah.
Shit, man! Congratulations. Do you have a van or something? How do you travel?
No, man. We so right now we're figuring it out. We're either going to, I think, for the regional stuff, we use a mid-size SUV with the seats folded down with like one little kid seat in the
We
back.
don't have drums, man.
We don't have drums, so we're able to do that.
Oh, yeah.
We're lucky.
And then, but I think for the longer stuff, we're probably gonna like rent a hybrid minivan. But I think we have so little stuff that minivan will be like super comfortable.
I just
Easy
realized
to
that.
navigate to
Yeah.
the cities and stuff.
Totally.
Yeah,
parking
the
a
drum
big
kit takes up
van.
so much space.
So much space.
Yeah.
Do you
and
miss
drummers
it?
just take up so much space.
Do you guys miss that? Do you miss the air being moved on stage from a drummer?
I used to.
You did?
I used to really miss it, and we tried a bunch of times with having friends come in, and I love the feeling of a kick drum, a mic'd up kick drum, just like slamming, right? But I think I have, when I imagine an Urban Heat show now, I imagine it being the three of us. I don't imagine something else there.
Right.
It doesn't feel like it's missing anything.
Right.
And we've always talked about like on bigger stages, on a bigger tour, on like whatever.
Right.
And like, sure. Like that might be awesome to have, a really awesome session to sit in when we're, if we have something really big. But, no, I think there's so much, you gain so much more by not having one, just because one, it helps really ground in songwriting. It really helps like really ground us in like a certain sound, because there's a certain era of drum machine and samples that we're always going to go to.
Yeah.
But then
And there's
two,
that
just,
limitation that allows you to create in that.
oh my gosh! I mean, a drum machine
that
can play
canvas,
stuff
yeah.
that just like when like syncopated
That's right.
like kick drums and stuff. You just can't, and then adding like with my performance aspect, like we play like small clubs, right? And they put that drum set right in the center of it.
Exactly.
And so I've got 2 feet behind
Yeah.
me
Yeah,
he's
to
trying
like,
to do a
before I
backflip.
trip
Yeah.
over on this
Yeah.
thing. And so we're going to start putting it in our rider. Like if the band after us doesn't have a drum kit, we don't want the drum kit on stage. Like we'll move it, like
Right.
tonight, I don't know if there's a house kit or not, but like we're not playing with a kit behind us tonight. It also like, it just looks like you're missing somebody. If there's an
Right.
empty drum kit behind the band,
Right. Oh, exactly.
it looks like
Otherwise,
somebody's
Otherwise,
not
people
there.
wouldn't even
Yeah.
really think about it.
Yeah, you wouldn't even
but
think
you
about it.
got-
If we
Except for that one lady at the
Everybody
out
always
there.
thinks
Just
they know
missing a
best.
drummer.
Everyone always thinks they know best. Yeah.
But I think it's part of our edge too, though. We've been on builds where there's acts similar to us, and they have a drummer, and there's something there's something different about what we do and what they do.
Right.
Even though sonically it could be considered, similar, we had a little bit of an edge.
I think you're also like allowed to. There's more kind of magic sonically that you're allowed to get away with when everything's rooted in a drum machine and sequencers and samples. You can just kind of do more in the performance.
Right.
Yeah, I'm happy with what we're doing.
I always go back to, we were talking about Phil Collins early, but he's got a great quote. They were asking him, during that whole period in the early 80s, like, why are you using a drum machine? He famously used 808 like no one else.
Yeah.
And he's like, well, he's a drummer. And they're like, why are you using a drum machine? You're an incredible drummer. And he's like, well, a drum machine can do things a human can't. It is relentless. And a human cannot play that perfect. Exactly.
He
said to that
exactly
extent,
right.
yeah, and it was just like, yeah, that always made sense to me, because if you're doing something that's a little more organic, loose, like by all means, a drummer's the best way to go, because a drummer can add nuance, it can add, different levels of what do you call it when you go up and down? Dynamics. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But with a drum machine, like you're locked in there, and there's a certain
you're just kind of like. You're locked in. You're just kind of like hanging on for dear life, and like this train is like going.
Yeah. It's funny because also his like the acoustic drums in the Air Tonight. If he was playing how would you replicate that rhythm that's on the drum machine, like with a hi hat and a side stick? That would sound like a fucking dork.
It would.
Mm-hmm. Like you'd sound like an idiot. And when the drums come in the middle of the song, it's like,
you're just
whoa!
like, holy shit.
Yeah.
It's, one of the most
it's making the hair on my arm stand up thinking
best
about it.
parts in music ever, one of them for sure.
One thing I was going to say about the mixing, the like when you have an electronic basis to your music recorded wise, and I see this happen a lot with bands here in town that are like hip hop bands or like straight up like very, very pop bands that have a real electronic sound, that when they they have a unique sound, their recorded sound is unique and they stand out in a way. And then they get a drummer and a bass player and it becomes very pedestrian.
Yep.
Like they just become a regular band at a bar at that point. Like whatever's so I'm glad you guys keep that stuff going on.
Yeah.
And also it just keeps it consistent, like there's some things that are going to be out of your control. Some things with the EQ on my vocals, the way that the sound's moving in the room, right? But for the most part, we're able to we know what the bass line is and we know exactly what it should sound like out there.
Right.
So if we go out there and we're hearing it, we know exactly what needs to change in order to get it to where it needs to be.
Yeah.
Versus it's just one less variable.
Right.
And that was very important to us in the beginning, because it was like, we want to get this. We don't want to spend a lot of time getting this thing going. We want it to go. We want to start playing shows, right after we started creating. And the whole balance, like he said, there's certain things that we still have to pay attention to, but we've gotten a good balance of his bass with electronic bass, guitar to sit a little above the tracks, my synth to kind of sit inside the tracks,
right.
His vocal on top. It's as simple as that.
Everything's been designed for efficiency, from the sound to the way that we can pack into a van, to the way that we approach the business model. Of we've always wanted to create a lot of content and not waste our time. Forgive me, anyone who is in a local band and only plays locally, that's cool. Hey. But Austin bands will get in this thing where we play once a week somewhere, and you never have time to record, you never have time to work on anything, and
you're not really making enough money to go do anything either. So you're just kind of in a rut.
Our plan was always to focus on the work, focus on the art, and the performance will come to it. The performance is I'm always writing with performance in mind. But our focus is on, making something that hopefully can last longer than we do,
Yeah. And I mean, the songs are great. I mean, they're really fucking great. And there's so many great musical hooks in it and great vocal hooks as well.
Thank you.
I mean, just guys are fucking great. And I'm really glad. I'm glad we were able to work it out. Sorry, my grandma.
How is your grandma?
She's good. She's 99 years old.
Oh, wow.
And she got a UTI at the end of April.
Oh, wow.
And when an old person gets that, it gives them dementia, which is weird. I didn't even know that. Wow. But it is super common. In an old folks home, if someone wakes up and goes where am I? They immediately check them for UTI. Yeah.
Same thing happened with my grandfather.
So she's just been kind of there, and my job allows me to go and hang in Houston when I need to. So I've been doing a lot of that. So, but she's doing well. She's hanging in there. She's like I have a friend of mine that refers to her as the Keith Richards of grandmas. Because I told her how old she was a couple years ago, and he was like, how do you have a grandma still? Aren't you like in your 50s already? I'm like, yeah, I'm in early 50s, whatever. And I still got a grandma. And he was like, man, I want to do whatever she does. But she never ate vegetables, smoked until she was like 66, drank like crazy.
People are like that, man.
Took
Took
Valium or Xanax every single day from 1970 until last July.
Wow.
When she took too many Xanax before she went to sleep and got up to pee and broke a couple ribs by face planting. But she's totally like the most like rock and roll.
Yeah, that's awesome.
It's funny. Anyway, but yeah, I'm glad that it worked out, and I'm glad we were able to talk. And congratulations, man. This record's great. You guys are fucking great. Have a great show tonight. I think I'll be there on the 30th.
Word.
I don't have a gig. One. Yeah, it's going to be really good.
We just started incorporating a MIDI-controlled lighting situation.
Oh, really?
So we're going to bust that out at
awesome.
Vegas.
Is that going to be inside or outside?
It's inside.
Okay, cool.
Which is good for us.
Yeah. Make it sweatier and more intense.
Take the drum set off. We got plenty of space.
Hell yeah. Well, guys, it was great meeting you, Pax. Great meeting you, Kevin, too. And it's great seeing you again, Doug.
I've had enough to turn it around again.
Jonathan Horstmann, Kevin Naquin, and Pax Foley, Urban Heat. Their EP, Wellness, drops on July 26th. They're celebrating with the record release show Saturday, July 30th here in Austin at Hotel Vegas. Go to urbanheatband.com. Get involved over there. I want to thank my friend Samara for hooking this up. It was great talking to these dudes. I love Jonathan. Always been great talking to him. And Kevin and Pax now, I feel like we're bros, you know? I feel like we're all bros now. Go to Urban Heat Band for all your Urban Heat needs. And gang, don't forget, when you're checking out urbanheatband.com, you can subscribe to this podcast wherever it is that you find podcasts, be it Spotify, Apple Podcasts, TuneIn, Overcast. New shows every Tuesday and every Friday. So many shows. Enjoy the rest of this song, Have You Ever, by the band Urban Heat. Have a great week, whatever it is you're doing. Let's get down.
Turn it around again. I've had enough to take it all back, all back. Have you ever? Have you ever? Have you ever? Have you ever?